In this brief tutorial, I just wanted to go over some of the main operations that Desmos can perform, beginning with accessing Desmos at desmos.com. Under Math Tools, there are some different kinds of calculators, and the main ones that I will use are the graphing and the scientific calculator. So I'll start with the scientific calculator, which works like any handheld calculator and applying the order of operations. For fractions, I just entered 12/16, but you are welcome to select this fraction icon and convert back to a fraction, really a reduced fraction, by selecting this button. You can raise to powers on your physical keyboard using the caret key, which I select Shift and then the 6 key to access it. But note there's some operations involving exponents on this main keypad. And also I can either type SQRT for a square root or CBRT for a cube root, or use one of these two operations. And later in the class we'll be using sine, cosine, and tangent, and having to swap between radian and degree measure. So notice where the radian and degree toggle button is located, and sine, cosine, and tangent. Right now, when I type sine, S-I-N, of 30, this is really reading that angle as 30 degrees. One other thing that I find helpful is the ability to store your answers and use them later. So I entered this equation, S equals 1/2 times the quantity 5 plus 12 plus 13, and got a result of 15. And now anytime I type S in any of the rows below, it'll automatically recall that S is 15. And then I can use it in another calculation if needed. So next I'm going to access the graphing calculator. You can also do basic operations in this left-hand panel. So pretty much anything that you could do in the scientific version, you can do in the graphing version. But just note that just as the scientific version had degree versus radian mode, the graphing version does as well, and you'll just have to select graph settings in the upper right hand corner, and this is where you can toggle back and forth between degrees and radians. You can graph functions and other relations by entering their equation. If you then select this gear icon and then create table, a table of sum points will appear, and you can add to the table by entering an input or removing points from the table. Another thing we could do, instead of using y equals, we could use function notation. Now, if I want to evaluate f of 2, I just type f of 2, and it's going to evaluate this expression when x is 2. Well, one thing that is different than a typical handheld graphing calculator is that you can more easily graph non-functions, like a circle, for instance. If you want to just plot an ordered pair, you can just enter the coordinates and add a label if you would like. If you are plotting a set of points, you can add a table and just enter them. If you want to see the points better, you can select this zoom fit icon, looks like a magnifying glass, and all of the points will now appear in your viewing window. If you need to make further adjustments, you can zoom in and out, but you can also select this graph settings icon and adjust your view by changing the numbers. You can change the step, which is the increment in X or Y. You can add labels. to the axes. And you can, like I sometimes like to do, just eliminate the minor grid lines. And lastly, if there's an operation that you're unsure how to perform, like square root for instance, you can use this keypad, which is very similar to the scientific version and still has additional functions that may be helpful.